It is a beautiful experience being with ourselves at a level of complete acceptance. When that begins to happen, when you give up resistance and needing to be perfect, a peace will come over you as you have never known. Ruth Fischel. Welcome to Long Haul Hope, a podcast for long haulers, their loved ones, and those who care about them. My name's Joe Grabowski. I'm a husband, a father, a pastor, and a tech geek. I've had lifelong struggles with depression, anxiety, and ADHD, and I've also most recently been diagnosed with long-haul COVID after suffering from shortness of breath, severe fatigue, and brain fog for over 2 years now. Long Haul Hope is not a medical podcast, but a voice of validation, empathy, support, and solidarity. Most of all, it's my desire that this podcast will be a voice of hope in the midst of the darkness of a diagnosis we do not yet fully understand. Each week, I'll share personal updates, positive news developments, advocacy, helpful resources, which I hope will be of value to you in your journey with long COVID. If you felt misunderstood, unheard, devalued, or even been made to feel as though you're a hypochondriac, you've come to the right place. You are not alone. Together we are stronger. There is hope. Why is it that we're the hardest on ourselves? As I've mentioned before, I've had lifelong struggles with depression and anxiety, and I was diagnosed later in life with ADHD, which further complicated things. And then since that time, I've developed long COVID, which has only further complicated things. Having depression, anxiety, and ADHD means that I have times where I'm up and I have times when I'm down. I have times when I have passion and vision, and there's times where all I want to do is withdraw and sleep and give up. And this is a roller coaster of sorts, and it can be seen sometimes in my outer life, but much more than that, like an iceberg, the tip that people see doesn't even show the underlying surface of what it's like to live with these things and to constantly be wrestling with your own worst enemy, yourself. So I set out to create a weekly podcast once I was diagnosed with long COVID, and I realized there wasn't a lot of voices out there, and I wanted to talk about my own experiences. I wanted to share my struggles, but also validate other people's feelings just as my own had been validated. And most of all, I wanted to promote a regular voice of hope. And as I've said before, my first and primary audience was myself. And yet, despite every good intention to do this weekly, as is all too often the case, I get sidelines and I swiftly lose my momentum. And likewise, depression is ever on the sidelines muttering, what does it matter anyways? And then you add in the random health ups and downs and the unpredictability of that, and soon it just feels like too much. The thing that was going to bring me joy, the thing that was going to bring me some consistency, suddenly feels just like a burden and a weight. So I go to record an episode. And these old ghosts are taunting. Oh, really? You were only 4 episodes in and you already blew it. So you've lost any hope of credibility. And once again, you've proved that you are unreliable and that you don't follow through on things that you've planned. These voices are mean to me. Religious or not, we're familiar with the saying, the golden rule, do unto others as you'd have done unto you. And that is a very valid rule to approach life with. Because if we treated others as we would want to be treated, there would be equity of emotions and finances and help and support and all sorts of different things. Right? But this is the problem. What if you're hard on yourself? Suddenly that do unto others as you'd have done unto you, it's hard because we're not even sure we want done unto me because we don't feel worthy of other people's care and we don't feel worthy of other people's sympathy. If anything, we feel like we're being a drain, we're being a burden, we're bringing people down. And what if you live under a cloud of chronic self-condemnation? That voice, that chattering monkey brain that's always telling you you're faulty, you're flawed, you're broken, you're worthless, right? And so we have these constant inner voices that we already struggle with. And we also tend to project our negative self beliefs onto other people, assuming that they feel the same way towards us and that they're silently judging us as being worthless, lazy, a disappointment, a failure, and so on and so forth. And so walking around through life with our coworkers, our neighbors, our friends, our family, with that underlying feeling that just beneath the friendly surface, this is really how truly people really feel. And once in a while, somebody who's insensitive or self-centered or whatever says something careless and harsh, which then reinforces this negative belief that we're already carrying about us, that that's really what other people think. It's a vicious cycle, and it does not lift you up. It just tears you down. But I want to, for myself, remind myself of this over and over again, and I want to share with you, to exchange that chronic self-condemnation for self-compassion. And this means to give ourselves the same love, kindness, and grace we often so easily extend to others. Dictionary.com defines compassion as a feeling of deep sympathy and sorrow for another who is stricken by misfortune, accompanied by a strong desire to alleviate the suffering. Now, we can relate to that. If we see our fellow human being going through something hard and suffering, and it's in our power at all to alleviate that, whether it's by being by their side, whether it's by um, supporting them financially, giving them rides, bringing them groceries, sending them encouraging cards and letters, whatever, we are right there. And if it were in our power and our resources to heal their hurts and to comfort them and make them feel better, we would do it. Sometimes we have compassion overload. You go through a place and then like Church Street in Burlington, and there's all the homeless people there, and they're all asking for money, and they all need something, and you want to help everybody, but after a while, it just becomes part of the background noise. We don't ever want to get like that with other people, but the thing is, we tend to be like that with ourselves. That part of us that's crying out for compassion, for understanding, for empathy, for love, is getting silenced by our own vicious critics. Some past voice, some past things that may have been said to you, things that you believe about yourself, the chronic self-condemnation. This is a situation we do sometimes. There's times where somebody comes and they're sharing all these things that they're beating themselves up about. They're being really hard on themselves. They're being really mean to themselves and set this impossibly high standard bar for themselves that they can't possibly live up to. And they are just say the most horrible things about themselves. Sometimes I invite them to step outside their emotions for a minute. Just separate themselves, separate yourself from how you're feeling in that moment, and ask yourself the simple question: if my friend, think of a friend or family member, if so and so came to me and expressed these same thoughts, what would I say to them? Chances are very good that you're not going to be mean to them. You're not going to be harsh to them. You're going to be loving. You're going to be sympathetic. You're going to be listening. You're going to be present for them. You're going to support them through that, and hopefully bring them to a place of encouragement so that they leave that conversation feeling better about things and better about themselves and more hopeful than they did when they first came to you. And that comes naturally to us. We desire to help and to heal. So why can't we do that the same for ourselves? If we can say these things, if we can have these things and feel these things for other people, why can't we have them for ourselves? Long COVID or not, all of us have been through over 2 years of personal and collective societal trauma. So now more than ever, we need to practice compassion for ourselves even as we're compassionate towards others. As the saying goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. There's only so long that you can pour out. But if you're not caring for the cup, it's going to run out. It's going to wear down. You have to be caring for yourself. You have to be filling up yourself. You have to be truly kind and compassionate to yourself and show yourself the same kind of love and grace and mercy that you so easily show other people. The truth is, if you're a long hauler or if you've got any other chronic invisible condition, your life, your health, your well-being has been adversely impacted. Don't hold yourself to a standard that was unattainable even before the pandemic, even before you got sick. We need to learn to live in the now and accept things for what they're at and tell ourselves, I'm hurting right now. I'm struggling right now. I'm doing the best I can, and it doesn't feel like much, but it's the best I can do right now. And give yourself that same kind of grace and encouragement that you give others. And my hope is that with this podcast, I'm going to, once again, give myself the same kind of self-compassion instead of self-condemnation, and hopefully inspire you to be kind to yourself. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share, or leave a rating and a review. And I'd love to hear from you. You can contact me at joe@longhaulhope.com and follow Long Haul Hope on Facebook and on Twitter. And as always, get plenty of rest, be compassionate with yourself, and keep choosing hope. I'll chat with you again soon.